Hello everyone and welcome back to the devlog for my still unnamed city builder game. It's been a hectic week, and before we hop into it, please subscribe to the channel if you'd like to keep up with the progress of this game. And if you like the video, don't be scared to like it by hitting the like button below. Now let's take a look at this week's progress. I started off the week building a basic inventory system. One will be needed for the game, but I'm in between doing either a single centralized inventory or a localized inventory system where items are kept at specific buildings based on whatever type of item it is. Since we aren't at the point where that decision has to be made right now, I decided just to make a simple UI that can be used for either situation in the future. It still has some kinks to work out, but it's a small project that I was able to knock out in a short amount of time. As you'll notice, that will be a theme this week. After the inventory, I started making some additional models for the game. With wheat being an available crop, something needs to be done with that wheat. Citizens won't be able to eat the wheat directly, and that's where the mill will come in. Players will be able to build the mill and process that wheat into flour. While flour in and of itself is not edible by those citizens, it can be used to make edible goods such as bread or cake. Once the mill was set up, I made a model for the road. Roads will be a core requirement for travel in the game. There's still a lot to work out with the roads. For example, I'll need to make vertical facing roads as well as models that account for turns and intersections. However, this is a nice place to start as the base model. I also added some lighting to both the mill and the road to give it a nice aesthetic at night. Moving on from the mill and the road came a pretty big accomplishment in a surprisingly short amount of time. The map was so empty, filling it manually would take a lot of time. It would also make the game the same each time you made a new one, unless I were to make multiple maps, again manually, which again takes a whole lot more time. So I made some tree models and added a function that, upon starting the game, spawns trees at random. This is great because it saves time of building a handcrafted map or even multiple maps, and it also creates a unique layout every time a new game is started. I then created some stone deposit models and implemented those into the same function. These aren't just random models. The trees will be harvestable for wood and the stone deposits for stone. These will be the base materials required for building many buildings. The next day I got a little sidetracked with the look of the town hall. It wasn't square and it felt a bit out of place compared to the other models, so I made a new model for it. I think the new one fits in better with the style of the other models. Let me know what you think in the comments. After that was out of the way, I focused back in on the trees and the stone deposits, specifically how the work camp would interact with them. I created a zone of affection similar to the one that I used for the parks and happiness. Once a work camp is built, the player can choose which resource the work camp should focus on. Saturday is usually my best, most productive day when I don't have to cut the grass. However, this Saturday was not that. After having a step collapse on the stairs on our front porch, it became evident that the stringers had rotted. So I spent most of Saturday buying materials and rebuilding that staircase. It needed to be done, but it sucks to have lost so much time in development. After not getting much done, I spent Saturday evening putting together a class for citizens. It included some of the basic attributes needed: names, ages, sex, occupation, etc. More will likely have to be added as more features are added to the game, but it's a good place to start with the template. I then started making a model for citizens, as I've decided that will be necessary in the game to have them. It's just one model for now, but I will eventually change basic features like hair and shirt colors to differentiate between them. Once the models were created, I added two animations, idle and walking. I don't have much experience in animation, and it shows. It took me a while to figure out a way to not have the shirts and pants clip. I was able to rig around it, but it gave me a pretty hard time. I might have to go back and redo this later, but it's at least something I can test with for now. Once the animations were done, I created another function to spawn in the first set of citizens. I felt like I was able to knock out a few big tasks despite having lost time in development this week. I'm sure it won't be the last time that I'll have to deal with these issues. I'll just have to keep rolling with the punches as they come. Next week I've got Friday off of work again, so I've got high hopes for a pretty productive week in the coming week. If you liked the video and want to keep up with the progress of the game, please subscribe to the channel. And if you want smaller, more frequent updates, you can follow me on X/Twitter at Hayden Marlowe_. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.